Count on LEX18 News.
It's been 20 years since the shooting at Heath High School in Paducah. Now, just 30 miles away, the community of Marshall County finds itself with the eyes of the nation focused on them.
Daddy, there's been a shooting, and I heard it.
Terror and fear turn to anguish with news of two 15-year-olds dead, 17 others hurt.
These children belong to this community and to specific families in this community.
Another teen faces murder charges. The survivors are shaken, knowing this is forever Benton's history. LEX18 News at 6 starts now. Good evening. I'm Nancy Cox.
And I'm Kevin Christopher. Thanks for joining us at 6.
The armed student first came into the Marshall County High School at 3 minutes until 8 Central Time and immediately opened fire. The first call for help was made 2 minutes later. It only took emergency crews 7 minutes to get to the scene. The first unit pulled up at 8:06.
That scene at Marshall County High in Benton is a 9th through 12th grade school of more than 1,300 students. Carolina Buchek spoke to students who say they are thankful to be alive tonight. She's live in Benton to begin our big story at 6.
Police still have this school shut down. Take a look. You can see flashing lights in the distance. There's so many officers out here, and they're all trying to figure out what was the motive. Why did this 15-year-old bring a loaded gun to school? And that's an answer so many parents and students also want, because they say they never expected this. Now, students say they gathered somewhere here in the Commons area for what they thought was just going to be an ordinary Tuesday morning, when all of a sudden they heard loud pops. When they turned around, they saw a familiar face with a gun.
I hear some gunshots, and I thought it was some kid with firecrackers or something, and I look back, and it's someone with a gun.
Students took off running away from the gunman.
Everybody was running, screaming, and crying. A lot of people were crying because, I mean, we all knew all these kids. Like, these were familiar kids.
Parents say they only realized what had happened once their kids told them.
Eric said that there was a shooting. One of his friends had gotten shot in the leg and was running down the road. He wasn't inside. My other son was inside.
And it took a while to hear from him, but even that was bittersweet.
As soon as I got confirmation that he was okay, I kind of just started praying for everyone else.
And police say those prayers are very much needed right now.
There were a total of 14 shot. One female died at the scene. One male died at the hospital. A tragic day for all of us.
Police haven't released the shooter's identity, but students say they saw who it was, and they're shocked by what happened.
He seemed really nice, and my friend told him that it didn't seem like he got bullied or anything, like he didn't really have a motive to do it.
And that motive, that is what police are trying to figure out. They say they have questioned the shooter, and they've also searched his home. Covering the news live from the LEX18 mobile newsroom, back to you.
Doctors at Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville say the ages of the injured students they admitted ranged from 15 to 18.
They say they had 3 victims with gunshot wounds to the head, one of whom did not survive. One student was shot in the arm, while another had to undergo surgery for gunshots to the chest and abdomen. That student is now in ICU, and doctors say they expect him, as well as the other students who were injured, to survive. Doctors say they're never prepared for the emotional toll of mass shootings, especially when young people are involved.
What we have to do is we have to cut our emotions off when we're trying to save somebody's life. But you can't hold that within yourself for a long period of time, and we've learned that we have to debrief and discuss this amongst ourselves, because we too suffer from this, but our job is to keep people alive.
Doctors say all the surviving students under their care are males. Hundreds of parents dropped their children off at Marshall County High this morning, only to get a call just minutes later that there had been a shooting.
One of those parents is also a photojournalist for our sister station, WPSD in Paducah. He suddenly found himself watching everything unfold firsthand. Angie Bevan continues our big story team coverage.
I can tell you that that phone call will be one that I'll never forget. Her words, "Daddy, there's been a shooting."
That was only 5 minutes after Chad Darnell dropped his daughter off at school. He headed back and wound up witnessing much of what was happening just after the gunfire.
3 helicopters have now got to campus.
Capturing video of the aftermath, the photojournalist was taking shelter in a security guard building, along with 3 students who had run from the school.
I was apparently right next to it because one of my friends got shot.
Each of them recalling the terrifying moments inside the high school. Another student also witnessed the shooting firsthand.
I was talking to one of my buddies in the Commons, and he got shot in his chest. We ran out together, but I lost him. I don't know where he went.
The students had contacted their parents, and soon law enforcement came to get them. The whole morning, unbelievable.
It just doesn't seem like this should happen. Like, I can't even, like, this, it's just, I'm just startled. Like, I'm still trying to gather myself that this is actually happening.
Covering the news in Marshall County, Angie Bevan, LEX18 News.
Politicians at both the state and U.S. capitals say they are devastated by this tragedy.
Governor Bevan and others rushed to Marshall County this morning. LEX18's Kylan Mills caught up with him. She joins us here in the studio with how the state leaders are reacting.
Yeah, Nancy and Kevin, we spotted Governor Bevan running out of a side door at the Capitol along with 2 staffers. He told us he was heading to Marshall County, and that news of the shooting spread quickly not only to Frankfort, but to D.C. A shockwave sent through the Kentucky Capitol this morning as lawmakers learned of the deadly school shooting. We spotted Governor Matt Bevin running out of the state capitol around 10:30.
Excuse me, Governor Bevin?
Yes.
Can you do that today for the press?
I'm not sure. I've got to go to Marshall County right now.
Okay, you're headed that way?
Yes.
Okay.
Once he arrived in Marshall County this afternoon, the governor choked up talking about the teenage victims.
Respect the fact that these children belong to this community and to specific families in this community. And this is a wound that is going to take a long time to heal.
State Representative Will Coursey and State Senator Danny Carroll also both rushed from Frankfort to Western Kentucky, and word of the shooting spread quickly to D.C.
I know I speak for communities across my home state in sending prayers of comfort and healing to students, faculty, and everyone affected by this violence.
U.S. Congressman Andy Barr in Richmond today for a meeting, telling us his heart hurts for those in Marshall County and that change needs to happen.
Well, as a father of 2 daughters who attend schools, it's always on my mind about school safety and in addition to the mental health reforms that we need to continue to work on.
Covering the news, a number of other politicians have released statements or tweeted about the tragedy, including Congressman James Comer and the Kentucky Secretary of State, Allison Lundergan Grimes. There's no doubt the hurt is being felt across our state and the country. Back to you.
Indeed, Kylan, thanks. And reaction is also coming in from Fayette County Public Schools. They tweeted, "Please join us in keeping the entire Marshall County High School community close in thought and prayer," end quote. This school shooting isn't the first in Western Kentucky. 20 years ago, tragedy happened at Heath High School in Paducah. A survivor who lives here in Lexington now shares her reaction. Jacqueline Nye continues our big story team coverage.
In 1997, students at Heath High School in Paducah went to school like any other day. When just before 8 a.m., Michael Carneal opened fire, forever changing the lives of students, staff, and their community.
I was in the room where the shooting happened 20 years ago. I was with a close friend when she was shot and killed next to me.
Now 20 years later, and 30 minutes down the street, another shooting, this time at Marshall County High School. Brittany Thomas says the people of Benton are her and her family's neighbors.
You just think it would never happen in the same community twice, like lightning shouldn't strike the same place twice.
Thomas even had 2 cousins who were at Marshall County High School when the shooting happened.
One of them we knew right off the bat was fine. The other one, and it didn't take us long, we were able to get information from them very quickly. So I really wasn't lingering kind of in that waiting like a lot of families were.
For Thomas, it's easy to put herself back in her 15-year-old shoes.
I would hope that people in Marshall County would know, like, the Paducah community is right there for you. We've walked this path. They loved on us and helped us get through it, and we want to be there and do the same for them.
Covering the news in Lexington, Jacqueline Nye, LEX18 News.
This story continues to develop, and as we get more information, we'll have it here on TV and on our website, LEX18.com. And while you're away from your TV or computer, get the latest about the shooting through our smartphone app. It's a free download.
Well, a day with overcast, a day with colder temperatures, a good breeze going, and now on the MaxTrack Live Doppler, a couple little teeny tiny sprinkles. They've crossed I-71. They're moving through Henry and Owen County. There have been a couple little ice pellets that have been mixed in with that as well. You could conceivably see a sprinkle or a flurry at your house later on. Winds are subsiding. Our winds now 15 to 20 miles per hour on the gusts, and if they're not showing a number at your place, that means the gusts are less than 15 miles an hour, so it is beginning to settle down. Our future track at 7 o'clock, again, trying to sprinkle or flurry painted on here, but for the most part, we're going to end up being dry. And if it does do something at your house, it's not going to be anything measurable. It's not going to affect you at all. Clouds will be tough through the morning hours and really into the afternoon as well, and that keeps temperatures on the chilly side. We'll talk about that, but the warmth that follows in a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Bill.
The body of a man was discovered in an apartment across from the municipal building in Paris.
The Bourbon County coroner confirms that 47-year-old Troy Michael Clifton was killed in an early morning apartment fire. The building in the 500 block of High Street went up in flames just before 2 o'clock. Clifton was the only person in the building at the time and was pronounced dead at Bourbon County Hospital. A man who used to live in the duplex, who wants to remain off camera, was shocked to hear this news.
Anybody passes away in a fire, it's just like a few days ago there were two sisters that passed away in a fire, and it's unbecoming. Should not happen. Never should have happened.
Fire officials say they did not find smoke detectors in the front apartment of that duplex. A major earthquake off the coast of Alaska could be felt far and wide.
And that includes right here in Kentucky. A UK expert weighs in on whether we should worry next at 6.
You're watching LEX18 News at 6.
After major water problems and severe weather issues for weeks, Perry County schools have amended their calendar to make up the days on weekends. Parts of Perry County have been without water for several weeks now. The city manager says extreme temperatures caused line breaks, and then excessive water usage caused a low supply. The board will add several Saturdays to make up for days missed. For a list of those dates, log on to LEX18.com. This morning's 7.9 magnitude earthquake near Alaska triggered tsunami warnings all over the West Coast, including California.
Even instruments here in Kentucky read that powerful shaker. Steve Butera spoke to a UK professor about the quake and why we're not immune to these seismic events in the Commonwealth.
This morning's tsunami warning in Kodiak, Alaska certainly caused shockwaves from the aftershocks of a massive earthquake.
This is, I think, we have a pretty good system, the tsunami warning in Pacific Northwest area.
Dr. Zaming Wang at UK is currently studying the shaker.
Right here, FLKY is a station right here.
The earthquake was so powerful, it was detected in local seismometers.
If you look over the Alaska, Pacific Northwest, the 7.9 is not uncommon, because of the subduction zone.
Earthquakes have been in the news here lately, recorded in Garrett and Knox counties within the last week.
It is normal, because in Kentucky we do have some fall. We do have some earthquake pop here and there. We just don't have enough knowledge to say, oh, the earthquake related to this fall or that fall. So it's kind of take time to accumulate data.
Certainly some head shaking as a seismic question is yet to be answered. Covering the news at UK, Steve Butera, LEX18 News.
Your LEX18 Storm Tracker weather forecast is coming up after this.
Calendar does say January, and traditionally January is not exactly a month weather-wise we associate with sunshine and lollipops. It's going to be a cold month in general. Sometimes it gets pretty cloudy, which we have got pretty much those things covered right now, the clouds, the cold. Now we're going to talk about some volatility, a lot of swings in temperature, and a lot of times weather gets awfully interesting around those. Let's talk about it. We get first with our Kentucky One Health weather bug camera, and you're looking out at the square, going across Broadway and Main Street in Lexington, where it's not a bad night. Temperatures are certainly brisk. Folks headed into Rupp later on tonight. You are looking at a MaxTrack Live Doppler. It's got a couple little sprinkles, Henry and Owen County. Could be an ice pellet mixed in with that. Could even get a renegade flurry before the night is done for some folks tomorrow. It's going to be a chilly day, but it's cold temperatures without the Arctic air, so it doesn't get out of hand. It's not crazy cold. It's normal January cold. For the rest of the week, enjoy the next warm-up that follows. 40s and 50s on the way. Long term, it's up, it's down, and we're going to do that a couple of more times before the pattern may set back in for winter as we head toward February, but that's a long way off. We'll worry about that when we get closer. But the fall that's happened from the 60 of yesterday, well, 50 doesn't really count. That happened around midnight last night. So the daytime high today was in the low 40s. 38 tomorrow. So yeah, it's a brisk day, but then we warm it right back up again. So enjoy. 15 to 20 degrees colder on our thermometers compared to where we were at this time yesterday. So we've gone from the temperatures that were in the upper 50s to temperatures that are now in the upper 30s. You look around and again, this is where we should be on a January evening. 39 in Richmond, 37 in Danville, 41 Monticello, London, Williamsburg. And you see the upper 30s through the I-64 corridor, including Lexington, where it's 39. Wind chill comes in at 32. Our wind is gradually subsiding, west now at 10. So you look around again, not a bad evening, not terrific, but not bad. We are in the meteorological backlash here, the leftovers. There's still a little bit of weak energy rotating around the main area of low pressure sitting up here to the north. You see there are little bursts on the radar displays, but not many. It's just a lot of low clouds, a lot of overcast left over. There's moisture, but there's not a lot of oomph. The oomph has moved on up to the north where it's going across parts of New England. Your secondary cold front kicked off a couple sprinkles earlier today. That's now going to begin to push eastward, get some snow in West Virginia from that. That's a polar high, not an Arctic high. There is a difference. Arctic highs are colder and drier. For us, it's a normal brand of cold. We're going to see that dividing line right there, that little front will eventually begin to wash out as we roll through Thursday. When that happens, air of Pacific origin begins to take hold. So for tonight, clouds, a sprinkle, a flurry, and ice pellet. We're in the mid-20s and still breezy. Mainly cloudy with a little late-day sun tomorrow. Seasonably cold will be in the upper 30s. The rest of your forecast goes like this. Pushing 50 Thursday, in the 50s for Friday and Saturday. Rain arrives during the day Saturday with us into Sunday. Falling temperatures on Sunday could lead to a flurry or two on Monday.
You know, I don't always prefer a lot of moisture, but when I do, I prefer it without a lot of oomph. Thank you for that.
Hold the oomph.
All right. Yeah.
Kentucky will try to avoid a 3-game losing streak as Mississippi State comes to town.
And there's one Wildcat hoping his 3rd game is the charm. You'll hear from Jared Vanderbilt next in LEX18 Sports.
Tonight at 9, UK hosts Mississippi State. The Wildcats have to do something that hasn't happened a lot since Coach Calipari came to town. Stop a 2-game losing streak. And Cal is ready to give Jared Vanderbilt more playing time. He mentioned him yesterday as a starter. Alan Cutler has more with the 5-star freshman who is about to play only his 3rd game of the season because he's battled a bad foot.
If you're at a big-time place like at Kentucky, there's a lot of noise. People say all kinds of things. There were many saying that Jared Vanderbilt was never going to play. This shows how mature he is. He wasn't listening. He was trusting the process.
I feel like every human has. Anytime you go through any type of injury, it's just natural to have that. But through the support of my brothers and my teammates and the coaches and my parents as well, I even prayed about it, and you know I'm confident right now. So.
Because of that, he could be a leader. Because of that, he believes leading by example will help his team.
You know, I try to lead by example and be vocal as well. Mainly just trying to challenge these guys every day in practice. You know, just by going hard and having energy, having the motor. Hopefully, they feed off on these guys, and it'll do nothing but better our team. So that's the goal.
Vanderbilt believes if you're not scoring, do something else, like grab a rebound. Now, if all the freshmen thought that way, this team would be much better. Alan Cutler, LEX18 Sports.
It's Yahtzee for Coach Stoops, but it's not a player, it's a new coach. Football Scoop is reporting that Michael Smith will be the next wide receivers coach. He comes to UK after leading the wideouts at Arkansas. He also coached with Stoops in Arizona. And back to basketball, and it was a historic night for former Wildcat DeMarcus Cousins. He finished with 44 points, 24 rebounds, and 10 assists in a win over the Bulls. The last player to produce at least 40 points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists in a game was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 1972. The others, Wilt Chamberlain, Oscar Robertson, and Elgin Baylor, all Hall of Famers. And Jamal Murray also poured in a career-high 38 points last night in his Nuggets win over the Portland Trail Blazers. That includes free throws at the end that helped seal the win. Murray also had 5 rebounds and 6 assists. LEX18 News will be right back.
So today felt a little more like late January. How about tomorrow?
Tomorrow feels like even later January.
We're talking by one whole day, I'll bet.
Later January in Indianapolis, as we'll be in the upper 30s tomorrow. Some sunshine will work out late in the day.
Thank you, Bill. Stay with LEX18 for NBC Nightly News right now, and then Evening Edition at 7.